I'm Sonic the Hedgehog, and you're watching 30 Days of me, Sonic, on Super Beanie-man Gaming.
So Sonic & Knuckles follows on directly from the events of Sonic 3, and at the end of that game, after defeating Robotnik, Sonic looked out and saw the Death Egg machine falling it through the sky, and the start of Sonic & Knuckles shows you the Death Egg crashing onto the floating island, but there is no actual recap if you've only played Sonic & Knuckles and not 3, so you wouldn't actually know what was going on properly, and once you start the game, you don't even get an animated cutscene, you're just plopped into Mushroom Hill, and there's no explanation for like what's happened or how you got there. One of the cool things about Sonic & Knuckles is that we finally get to play as Knuckles the Echidna himself, having only seen him briefly throughout various zones in Sonic 3, but now we get a whole game dedicated to Knuckles and we can finally play through the campaign with him. So Knuckles actually gets his own sort of scenario where he's sort of facing off against one of those egg robos who just starts to piss him off. So the gameplay is kind of very similar to Sonic's in that we can do the spin dash, we can run, jump and attack enemies, but Knuckles also has some of his own unique abilities that makes his playthrough a little bit different. For starters, he can use his knuckles to dig into the walls and climb up them, allowing you to reach higher areas. There is also another move that Knuckles can do, is in the form of glide. By jumping and then pressing jump again while you're in midair, you can then glide across certain areas to reach them. It's a cool one that's not quite as powerful as Tails' flight ability, but it is still a good move nevertheless, and does help to make Knuckles feel more unique. Another cool aspect is that each character has their own sort of unique adventure, more so than in any other game. Before, if you played as Tails, you'd go through the exact same zones in the exact same order, doing the exact same thing, yet here they kind of mix it up a little bit, and you might find you have different boss encounters, different end bosses, and different orders to the levels where you start and things like that. So it's kind of cool, it's 2 games in one almost. There is also a really cool end boss for Knuckles' campaign where you get to face off against Super Mecha Sonic, who, using the power of the Master Emerald, jumps on it to turn himself into a super version of Sonic, which I just thought was really cool back in the day. It's a nice campaign as Knuckles, and it's definitely fun to play as him.
But wait, there's more.
For a game called Sonic & Knuckles, one of the things that annoyed me about this game was that on the character selection screen, you can only pick between the 2 characters. So really, it should be called Sonic or Knuckles, because you can never play as them both together. This is strictly a single player game. You can't have a buddy with you controlling the other character, and I think that's a real shame and a bit of an oversight with this game, because during the story, the few scenes where they do share the screen together, it gives you a glimpse of some of the cool gameplay that could have been had with the 2 working alongside each other, as Knuckles can smash through walls and Sonic can run really fast, and it's a shame that we never got to see it in this game. Another problem with the characters in this game that you can pick from is that there is no Tails in this game at all. And that is a crying shame, because in Sonic 3 he was actually really fun to play as you could finally fly yourselves with him, and couple the fact that you could pick up Sonic, it made for some really cool and interesting gameplay moments, like that bit in the Marble Garden Zone where you have to fight Robotnik while Tails carries you up in the air. It's just a crying shame that Tails wasn't featured in this standalone version of Sonic & Knuckles. And yes, I do realise you can play as him if you use Sonic 3 as the lock-on cartridge, but he should have been available in this game. So the first zone in this game is Mushroom Hill, which is kind of the easy sort of Green Hill styled zone that you get in most of the games, but one of the more annoying things in this game, or rather the 2 annoying things in this zone, are the lifts that you have to jump on and then press up and down to pull them and slowly climb up using them. They're an absolute pain because they just take out all the momentum from the zone. You can't just speed through this one like you could in those past games, and there's quite a lot of them, so you'll be doing it a lot throughout this zone. And there's also those rooster chicken things that blow you away that are really annoying too. I really never liked this bonus stage. You have to jump on these balls and spin round them and then jump off them at the right time so that you can fly upwards to get out of this zone before the thing that's underneath kills you. And I always used to fuck these up, so I never really got a chance to enjoy them fully. One of the cool things of Sonic 3 was the Act 1 mini-bosses, allowing you to fight a little smaller boss at the end of each of the first acts of all the zones, and that is something that carries over into Sonic & Knuckles. In many ways, this game is just like Sonic 3, which is kind of the point because it's the second part of the game, but I'm glad they included these in this. Another cool feature in this game that was also in the Sonic 3 is the fact that Sonic and Knuckles cross paths, but it's cooler this time because you can get to play as Knuckles and see what he was doing at that point. At the end of Mushroom Hill Act 2, we get a really, really cool boss fight with Robotnik, and in this game it probably has some of the best boss fights in any of the Sonic titles because they are really creative and just there's a spectacle about them and they look really cool, and I really like the 3D effect that they have on this boss fight, and it's one of the few boss fights on these Megadrive titles that you're actually moving, like you're not just confined to a single screen where Robotnik can come in and out of it at any angle. Here you're actually running and using Sonic's speed to help defeat Robotnik and keep up with him, and I just think it's a really memorable one because of that. I mean, at this point you probably only had the Sonic CD boss fight with Metal Sonic where you're running around. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but it was always a memorable one to start off the game with. Like in Sonic 3, at the end of each zone, you will get a short animation to take you to the next act, which I think was just a really nice way to tie in all of the zones together and to keep with that sort of story aspect that this game has. So the second zone is Flying Battery, and this zone has such an awesome and rocking theme tune that I just had to mention it in this review. It's one of my favourite tracks from this Sonic & Knuckles soundtrack because it's just such an awesome tune. I really, really enjoyed this zone, thanks in a large part due to this zone's music. It's just superb. Though this zone does have quite a few difficulty spikes considering it's the second zone in the game, as there's quite a few tricky platforming sections with these moving platforms that you have to jump on and then jump off as they go into these tubes, and there's a lot of easy areas where you can easily get squashed, which is annoying, and there's also traps like this capsule that will just unleash more badniks, so it's definitely a step up in terms of difficulty. Though I do love how the Flying Battery is like a homage of past game zones, as it's a mixture of Metropolis Zone and Wing Fortress from Sonic 2, so it's just really cool to play through it and just see, oh yeah, I remember these sort of bits, and that's one of the running themes of this game. It's very much like a celebration of all the Sonic games that came before it, and I just love it. I love seeing the sort of mixed zones, and it's something that Sonic Mania did really well too. Unfortunately, Sonic & Knuckles also features the return of the Blue Spheres special stage in order to get all Chaos Emeralds, and if you saw my review of that, you'll realise that I don't like this stage, and I'm disappointed that they didn't add a new special stage for this game. It's a bit of a missed opportunity in my point, but it's definitely worth pushing through and getting all the emeralds because once again you can transform into Super Sonic, and he is just a blast to play as ever. So there's this point in Flying Battery where you have to use these missiles that drop down in order to blow up the floor below so you can get back inside, and trying to figure out this in the first time you're playing it is quite tricky because there's no real sign that it will do anything until those missiles land, but at that point you probably ran back to the left. One of the cool things about Sonic & Knuckles is the boss fights, as I've probably mentioned already, but there are some really creative ones, like this end of act capsule that usually has the animals in, but when you jump on the yellow switch on the top of it, it transforms into an enemy, and you have to fight the animal capsule, which I just thought was genius. I mean, it's a very simple boss fight. You just stand on the lid, wait until his arms attack, and then jump off so it hits himself, but it's just a fun little creative one that I thought was cool. Another boss fight in Flying Battery has another callback to Sonic 2's Wing Fortress boss fight with the laser, though this time you don't have to jump on the platforms in order to hit the beam, you can just jump up and hit it yourself, so it is a bit of an easy one. But I just really like the callbacks in this game to the past games, and this was another fun one. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the same boss sprite that they used in Sonic 2 as well. So in every Sonic game you always have that zone that you just don't enjoy as much as the others. In Sonic 1 it was probably Marble Garden or the Labyrinth. In Sonic 2 it was definitely Oil Ocean. In Sonic & Knuckles, however, it's definitely for me the Sandopolis Zone. Now, it's a really nice looking zone, don't get me wrong. The sand looks really cool, the yellows, and the music's kind of nice as well, but I just didn't really enjoy the first act of this. It's kind of a mixture of Oil Ocean as well, so that's probably why I don't like it, because you have all those water slides and it's just not that fun. So at the end of Act 1 as well, you also have this stone golem boss fight, which is actually a puzzle boss, because even though you hit it and the rocks fall down, you're not actually doing any damage to it, because you can't actually kill this stone golem boss. There's actually a puzzle sort of trick to it. And when you first get to this as a kid, I remember I definitely died here, ran out of lives, and I may have even gamed over it before I realised what you actually had to do to stop this boss fight. So like I said, you can jump and attack it, and it looks like you're hitting it because the rocks fall away, but the rocks will always come back. And he sort of grows his arms and legs again and just comes at you again. So it's always like, what the hell do you do? But the trick is you need to lure him over to the left side of the screen where there's quicksand, and you have to knock him into that. And once he sinks into that, you'll then be defeated and you can go inside the pyramid. But trying to realise that's what you have to do when you first play it is kind of hard, because you don't expect to have to run back to the left, because I just remember just assuming that the screen would cut and block me in, so I'd only be in this short area, and it's just I think it kind of just comes out of nowhere compared to all the other bosses. You know, there's never normally a gimmick like that where you can't kill them by just jumping at them, so it definitely catches you off guard. But yeah, it's cool, but it's a bit annoying too. So Act 2, when you go inside Sandopolis, is actually really fucking intense, and it was always the act in a stage zone that I would dread the most, because it's actually quite terrifying. So the gimmick of this act is the light. When you're in the pyramid, the torches will go out and you'll be surrounded in darkness. But when that happens, the ghosts appear and they get more and more evil the darker it gets. And if it gets really dark, they start attacking you and you can end up easily getting killed by them. There's also this really horrible bit where the sand fills the rooms you're in and you've got to try and get out as quick as you can. Kind of like the lava filling in Hilltop Zone. Again, another cool callback. But this zone's act was just really, really intense. It wasn't that the ghosts were scary. It was just seeing them on screen, seeing them grow and grow horns and get bigger and bigger. It was kind of just intimidating that they were just circling you like a bunch of vultures, waiting to just pick you off. And then when it gets dark and you can't find a switch anywhere, you just panic, and it's really cool in that respect. Another cool feature of Sandopolis Act 1 and 2 is the little mini rappelling section you do when you jump on this rope and you just jump off the edge of the building you're on to rappel down. It's just a nice little gimmick that you don't see often in some of the Sonic zones, so when you do, it just makes it more special. So Sandopolis also has a cool final boss fight with Robotnik where you have to knock away the armour to reveal him. It's another cool fight, but the coolest part of this is once you finish it and you end up going to the next zone, because Lava Reef is absolutely fantastic. It's another highlight of the game, thanks in a large part due to the epic music that accompanies this zone. It's just great, or rather this act. So this one is kind of like a mixture of Marble Zone with the lava and some of the traps as you're going up the steps, and what else would I say? Maybe like Mystic Cave, because you're sort of underground in a cave, so it kind of reminds me a bit of that. But it's definitely more Marble Zone from Sonic 1 than anything. But it's an actual fun version of that, I think. So another cool feature of this zone is the details. The graphics in this game are great, but in the background you will see you're in a cave and you can see the front of the Death Egg sticking out, so you kind of know where you are at this point. You're in that mountain that you see on the title screen. So another cool thing I like about this game in general is the visual change in some of the acts. So we saw it in Angel Island in Sonic 3 where the woodland area just burnt and then the whole forest was just on fire, and it happens again in this zone. So the first zone of Lava Reef is filled with lava and it's very orange and molten-y and it's rocky and there's lots of browns, and once you finish that stage it just completely changes on its head and it changes its visual style and colour. It goes a bluey colour and it's sort of like crystallised rocks at that point, and you're in a cave and it's all glowing, and the music also changes as well, and I just think that was a really nice touch. Even though it's the same zone, these two acts feel drastically different as a result, and it's just really cool to see, and it sort of also changes the gameplay in it as well, so it makes it feel different and really cool. So of all Knuckles' ambushes in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I think this one, as you're climbing up in the second act of Lava Reef and he just chucks a giant fucking boulder at you, is probably his best and finest moment. He definitely catches you off guard here. And it also leads to this epic boss fight, looking at the Death Egg in the background as it charges its lasers up at you, and then it destroys the area around you and just fills it with lava, changing the visual colour palette. And then you get Robotnik in the background attacking you with the missiles, and how the screen scrolls, so it's another scrolling boss fight where you're moving around and just getting fucked. It's just so intense and so fucking cool and badass. It's why it's one of the coolest things in this game, just these epic boss fights that we get to have. They really know what they're doing at this point, the Sonic team, and it really shows. And the way this boss fight just transitions to this second phase of the boss fight, where you have to jump on these lava platforms and use the attacks that Robotnik launches to damage him, or if you've got Super Sonic, just stand by him and kill him that way, nice and easy. During my Sonic 3 review, one of the bad points about the game I said was that you never actually get an opportunity to have a fight one-on-one against Knuckles, because at the end of Launch Base Zone, he kind of just takes himself out, so it's kind of like a wasted opportunity. And thankfully, Sonic and Knuckles finally corrects that, as the two go face-to-face and have an epic boss battle. Well, not really an epic, it's kind of a bit of a disappointment, to be honest, but at least they finally have a battle. It's kind of fun to see, but yeah, it's a bit of a lackluster fight, and Knuckles is easily defeated.
Are you fucking kidding me?
One thing I did like about this boss fight is the mural on the background, which depicts Super Sonic fighting Robotnik, which is the end boss fight, which I just thought was really cool. Another cool moment comes after the boss fight with Knuckles, where we get this sort of interactive cutscene where Robotnik tries to steal the Master Emerald from Knuckles, and it's here where Knuckles realises the truth in that Robotnik is actually the bad guy and Sonic is the good guy in this story. And it's here where we see the two of these characters who have bashed heads throughout Sonic 3 and all of this game up to this point finally join forces and team up to stop Robotnik. And it's just such an epic moment. You think finally we get to actually work with this guy. He's actually a good guy, really. You just didn't know the truth, and now we're going to help him out to save his land and get the emerald back. And you think, yeah, we're going to have a really cool team up at this point. Knuckles is going to join us on the adventure now. But unfortunately, after he takes us to the Sky Sanctuary Zone, he's like injured and tired. So he just stays there, and it's like, no, man, the team up of 2 games worth of waiting is just over already. And we don't get to have him join us on the fight. He just stays behind, and that was just disappointing for me. One of the cool things about Sky Sanctuary, it's a cool zone anyway, and it's really cool with the music and everything, but one of the nice things I remember about this zone is just all of the past boss fights that you do against Metal Sonic throughout the zone. You have like these mini boss fights with him that remind you of the Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 boss fights in Metropolis and Green Hill, and it's just really cool to just have these little fights as you're working your way through the boss, the zone, in order to get to the final boss fight with Metal Sonic himself. It's just a nice touch that we never saw before in one of the Sonic games. And then after defeating Mega Sonic, we have this really cool cutscene where Sonic runs up this last bit of Sky Sanctuary before it all crumbles away. And then he just jumps into the Death Egg like a total badass, man. It's brilliant. It's such a small little thing looking back now, but at the time it was just so cool because it ties into the story, and it made it feel like this was this really big and epic storyline. Even though there was no dialogue and you just sort of think of it yourself, it was just cool to see. And the fact that you get to play in the Death Egg this time, because in Sonic 2 you didn't really do much in there other than the boss fight, and now we're in there, but unfortunately the level kind of sucks, all due to the gimmicks. These tubes that you enter and it flies you around, and then this like zero gravity bit that you have to bounce on this pad in order to do all the switches, just became a bit of a pain. And the worst crime that this zone commits is that it has a repeated obsession with these tracks that just send you in this like ring teleport and fling you around the room. You do so many of them, and they take so long to go in and come out of, that it just becomes a ball ache to go in there, and I just absolutely hate them. It's like the tubes in Chemical Plant, but times by 10, because they last twice as long just to get you to a tiny bit across the room. It's just so annoying. The coolest part of the Death Egg is this boss fight, as it's just so unique. It's one of the ones where you can't just sort of like cheapen it and just sort of storm him and kill him before he's actually done anything. And Super Sonic is actually kind of useless here, so you have to just use Robotnik's attacks against him again. But the gimmick is you have to go into these little tubes that will change the gravity of the room and put you on the ceiling or the floor. So you use that in order to get the things that Robotnik jumps out at you to impale the robot, but he has this spring to bounce off you, so you've got to time your attacks. It's just a really fun fight. I really enjoyed it. And then once you do that, you then chase Robotnik, and that is pretty much it, leading up to the final encounter where we face off against Robotnik in space again, which is also cool. And this is a sort of multi-phase boss fight. So it starts off, we hear him plodding towards us, you can see the screen shaking, and it's so intimidating. And then we see this giant robot with these big hands that are trying to squash us, and the trick here is to wait for the hands to touch the ground, and then you can jump on them to damage them. And it's just so cool, it's so fucking epic. And it's kind of easy to do this stage. It's just a bit time consuming because the hands take a while to go down, and you've got like 6 fingers to destroy, but it's cool. It's a cool simple bit leading you up to the harder part of phase 2 of the fight. So yeah, once you destroy all of the fingers, we then go on to the next phase of the battle, and it's here where the difficulty sort of ramps up and the tension ramps up and the fear of dying sort of kicks in, because you don't have any rings at this point. So here he sort of uses the power of the Master Emerald to charge up this death cannon, which will just kill you in one hit. The stage is crumbling before you, and you can only hit him when his defences are down and the emerald is sort of open, so you can see it. But at that point he also is charging up his attack, so you can't stay there too long because you'll get hit by the beam. And he also has flames that attack you, and it's, oh my god, it's just intense. And it is kind of cheap at times because it's very easy to fall off or fall through the stage and die. But yeah, it's such an epic fight. And once his machine is destroyed, Robotnik rises up in his trusty sort of egg carrier thing, and he has the Master Emerald on him. So you then have this epic chase while you're hitting him. You can also accidentally fall off the stage as it crumbles, but if you don't and you do it and you manage to beat him, that's the end of the game. Although, if you've collected all the Chaos Emeralds, you will unlock the final zone, the Doomsday Zone, and that is the final stage, the big final showdown where you are Supersonic, and it's the last epic battle against Robotnik. It's the end of the trilogy, even though it's 4 games, it's the end of the trilogy, and it's a really epic boss fight. We're in space, we're Supersonic, hurtling into asteroids to smash them, and we're collecting emeralds, we're dodging Robotnik's missiles because if they hit us they'll bounce us back, and we're trying to catch up with him because he's just sped off in this giant mech, and we're trying to hunt him down as Supersonic and stop him once and for all. And the music's there, and it's fucking incredible, and it's such a cool fucking fight. So you've got to try and avoid the asteroids because they slow you down as well. And then once you catch up with him, you have this little battle where you use his missiles and you have to move around the screen to line them up because they're locked onto you. And if you can line them up and hit Robotnik's head with them, you'll damage him instead. And it's just so cool. It's so fucking cool. And if you get hit with the missiles, you'll fly backwards, and then you've got to try and catch up with him again. All the while, you've got to make sure your rings are kept up so you don't run out of rings and turn back to normal Sonic and just die instantly. And then you have to chase him in a mech at the second stage, and you can see him holding the emerald, and you're just trying to catch up with him and hit him as Supersonic. All the while, remember to catch rings, avoid the meteors, and keep up with him. It's just so cool. It's so incredible. It's such a brilliant, epic end to the game that I absolutely love it. And with that done, Robotnik is defeated once and for all, and we are now falling back to Earth, or Mobius rather, not Earth, fucking hell. And then all of a sudden, Tails comes out of nowhere, in the plane, catches us, saves us, and grabs the Master Emerald. Fuck's sake, Tails, where have you been throughout the whole game? What were you doing? But that is it, that is the end of Sonic & Knuckles. What a brilliant campaign that is. It's just so cool, and I love it, it's great, and yeah, on its own, Sonic & Knuckles, it's not as good as Sonic 2, and I don't think Sonic 3 is as good as Sonic 2 on its own either, but if you use the lock-on technology to lock on Sonic 3 and Knuckles and play it as it was originally intended to be this fully complete game, then it's easily better than Sonic 2. It's an absolute masterpiece. I think on its own, I would give Sonic & Knuckles, I would say a 9 out of 10. I think it's still a great game, but if you lock it together with Sonic 3, it becomes an instant 10 out of 10 classic, and it's absolutely superb. It's such a fun game, and it's a really epic one as well. You can tell they knew what they were doing at this point. They were confident, and they tried new things, and it worked for the most part, and it was more spectacular. That's what I'd say about this game. It was much more spectacular, and it was really fun to play, and I love it.